Hey everybody, it's Bud from Space City Props. For those of you who are following me on social media, you know that I'm building the Omalon Last Extremity Scout Rifle from Destiny, as you see here. I recently hit a point where I was a little worried about the part that I had to make. It is this part right here. It looks kind of like a hose type piece. I originally thought that I'd go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up some tubing and some fittings and call it a day. Apparently that's not the case. Somebody else built one and had the same idea. He realized that it won't work because the hose don't bend right or the fittings don't work right, etc. and so on and so forth. So he had to fabricate his. It was a little discouraging, but then I remembered apparently you can build anything out of EVA foam. So I would make it out of EVA foam like the whole rest of it. So I figured I would take my Dremel and some pieces and just carve out the piece from scratch. First piece started okay, came out looking like crap, so that was that one. Tried again, a little better, not as bad, but still looks like crap. So I figured I would make a cylinder piece and then heat form it. Spent a good bit of time making a lumpy piece of crap. So then I remembered that Evil Ted likes to take pipes and so on and so forth to make perfect circles every time. And it works great every time. Thanks, Ted. That is a great and helpful hint. Well, so since I needed a cylinder, I figured I would just take a bunch of pieces and glue them together and run the pipe through it to get the size. And it does not work that way. It will come out lumpy, uneven, and looks like total garbage. Do not do it. I don't think it'll ever work. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I realized it would be really awesome to be able to use a lathe on EVA to make the pipe. Well, there's no way you could do that. It is too flimsy and it would flop around, and the only thing you would accomplish is a trip to the hospital because you would probably hurt yourself. So I thought about it some more and I came up with a solution that I think worked pretty well. This is the first piece here. It's not perfectly cylindrical, but it was the first attempt. And it is flexible like a hose. It is mostly round, but it is not hollow like a hose. But it would look the part if you needed it to flex and bend. Before I heat sealed this and heat formed it, it was actually almost a perfect cylinder. Then I obviously heat formed it and all that, and I got the piece I needed. So today I'm going to show you how I made a cylinder out of EVA foam with a ghetto rigged lathe. Alright, so for this project, obviously you're going to need some foam, a marker so you know where to cut, obviously your knife, and on this I used a stainless steel shish kebab skewer. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. Also, on this project we will be using a belt disc sander combo, and that will be explained here in just a minute as well. Okay, since we are making another one of these parts right here, what I'm going to do is take a foam ruler as instructed by Doran of Punished Props. What you do is you take it and you can do like this. So we have about 5¼ inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it at about 6 to give myself a little bit of extra working room. So if anything happens, I can trim off the edges. Take my marker. For example's sake, I'm going to mark it at 6 right there. You can see it right there. Now, since it doesn't necessarily need to be straight because we're going to be cutting off the ends, I'm not too worried about exactly how straight the cut is. but everybody should always have a straight edge, by the way. Alright, now there's a cut line. So, now I'm going to cut it off. Okay, since we need to make a tube, what we're going to do is we're just going to make two identical pieces like this. Now we have these pieces. This comes into play, the skewer. What we're going to do is we're going to glue it right down the middle like that. Just like that. So that we have what looks like a black hot dog on a skewer. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our contact cement, just brush it on, like that, and found that using a scrap piece of foam to smooth it all out. Nice even coat. It dries better and it will actually adhere better. So I'm going to put it on both sides. Again, I'm going to make it nice and even. Okay. So we're going to let those dry up for a second before we put a second coat on, since this foam loves to soak it up. The way we can get a better coat. In the meantime, we're going to take the skewer. I'm actually going to put it into some water to get it wet. But this can actually be done at the last second, but we're just going to leave it in there for now. Put that. Okay, so now that our pieces are good and dry, we're going to take our skewer and we're going to lay it all the way across, right down the middle, leaving it just inside, right down like that. Should be wet, so it shouldn't really stick too much. I'm going to pull it back out anyways. I'm going to take this part and we're just going to sandwich it around the skewer. It might not want to sit right exactly since you got a foreign object in there, but it will glue. Trust me, it will glue down just fine. As long as you let it wait long enough. Get all that ugly glue seeped out the sides. It's okay, because we're going to sand it off. Okay, like I said, here's the fun, messy part. We're going to take our belt sander here and our burnt hot dog, and we're going to, when we turn it on, just kind of roll it around, kind of get the little edge, roll it, move on to another edge, roll it, so on and so forth, until we have a perfect cylinder. Eventually, if you sand it far enough down, it'll actually be able to rotate normally without any flat spots. So this will take a minute. As you can see, we're starting to get a bit of a rounded over shape. on the edges here. Obviously it's not a cylinder yet, but the skewer, if you notice, will hold it from flopping around and keep its shape. So the more you sand it, the more you can round it over and get the part that you need. And since you're using the flat of the belt sander, you have something to push against. Every so often you might want to stop and check to see your progress. See about where you're at. It is smaller, it's not quite where we need it, but it's coming along. Every so often, since you have an extra object in there that was wet, when you put it in there, you might get a little opening, but that's okay. It still holds, it's just fine. So for now, we're not going to worry about it just yet. We're pretty much done with the belt sander. Now you can see that it is almost a perfect cylinder. I'm going to touch it up a little bit with a Dremel to smooth out some of this rough edges, since I have a rough grit paper on the belt sander. But for the most part, you can see that it is a sander. And it's pretty close, but it's close enough. At least for me, it's close enough. And the skewer was to help hold it from flopping around, because right now it does not bend. So next step is to carefully, very carefully, try to pull it out. What I found that I had to do, a pair of pliers on the ball end here, pull it a little bit like that, punch it up. So you'll probably end up stretching it a little bit, but this is why you put the water on it, try to keep it from sticking. Go. Now we have a solid piece. It's got a little bit of a hole there, but that's okay. And voila, you now have a round cylinder of EVA. So now that this is all ready to sand and smooth over to your heart's content, again, it's flexible, and all it is 2 layers of EVA sandwiched over a metal skewer, just like so. Glue it down, but make sure that when you put this in there, it's wet, water or otherwise, so that it does not get glued in there and make it really hard to get out. And just sand it down on the belt sander, and be very careful, and you should be successful probably right off the bat. Okay, now that we're done sanding with the bent sander, you can see that we have almost a perfect cylinder again on our skewer. No, it's not actually that messy. It's being over dramatic.